breaking developments. That school shooting, authorities racing to the scene in Arlington, Texas.
As you can imagine, it is a challenging, difficult morning.
We continue to track breaking news of the worst kind.
Shows him running into the schools.
18 children and 3 adults are dead.
So clearly a lot's been going on, which has prompted a ton of different decisions for us and our family. But before we get into that, welcome back T&J fam to the first
sit down video
that we've done in a long time. I mean, we just got back into vlogs, which you guys have been showing love to. Make sure you guys go check those out if you haven't. But you know, this is Jarius' thing to do sit downs and kind of like update you guys on what's going on. And I think it's good that we get to connect with you guys and let you know what we're thinking about this particular topic. So, as you've seen previously, a lot has been going on as it relates to schools. And this year, in particular, was important to us because our kids were supposed to start school. Now, before we get into all of that, we did reach a kind of a brick wall when it came to enrolling them in school. We moved to an area where the schools are really good, and we really wanted to focus on education for the kids. And we had trouble enrolling them in school because of their age. Ashton turns 5 in July, so you guys probably have seen all of his birthday things. And then Aria doesn't turn 5 until September 2nd. And that's important because the cutoff for schools is September 1st.
In Georgia.
Yeah, in Georgia, and they clearly don't make any exceptions. So what they proposed that we did was send Ashton to school, and then Aria would have had to sit out, and I wasn't going for that. So then we had to make a decision on what we were gonna do, and you can kind of.
So before we even go down that road, I feel like it's important to note too that this is such an incredible decision for us because since the day that our kids have been born and they've been home with us, they've legit always been home. Like I stayed home for the first 6 months. Terrell was at home as well during that time, and then when I went back to work, we hired a nanny, and we've always had a nanny to have the kids in our home. So to relinquish that sense of security is already scary in itself just because they've always been with us. But to then add to the complexity of the situation by adding what are schools doing to protect these kids? What are people on the outside doing to, break into schools and all of these things like that? And it was a lot. But, to then get back to what Terrell was saying, we tried to enroll them in the main school. That didn't work. So then we looked into an advanced pre-K, which they've already done pre-K at home, but we looked into an advanced pre-K so they can at least get the socialization part of it, and we enrolled them in there. But
we tried it out, so I don't know if we included. I think we may have done it in the vlog. So you guys may have seen the vlog. We'll insert a clip where the kids did like a test run. So it was like their registration, and then they kind of got to go in. And if you guys remember, that was when Aria was scared. She didn't want to go, and now that's all she talks about. But we actually was going full force with the project, and this was
earlier this year.
Like
at the beginning part of the year. So, like Terrell said, we were going full force with sending them to school. But then everything started happening with school shootings. And for me, and we kind of talked about this on Facebook, so some of you may already be aware of these feelings, but for me, I'm a person that if I can mitigate as much risk as possible, the possible upside to the risk is not worth it to me. Because for me, I put myself in the position of those parents that had to find out via the news that a school shooting was taking place in Texas, and they had to rush to go to the school and had to sit on the sidelines not knowing if their children were alive or not. And for me, I'm not willing to do that, especially when there has not been a significant answer in terms of how the kids are going to be protected. A gate is not going to do so. Locking the doors is not enough. When we saw in New York, the shooter was able to gain access to Sandy Hook through the window. So to me, it's not enough being addressed how they're going to do this, and in my opinion, it won't be enough until we specifically address how the gun laws are. But I'm not going to get all political, but I just think like the safety of my kids is paramount, and I know to both of us. But we have two different opinions about it, and you can explain yours.
Well, so my opinion is is circling socialization. My thoughts are and concerns primarily are around my kids having social lives. Jarius and I both went to Head Start, pre-K, and I think that it's an emotional thing for me because that's all I remember. I remember forming friendships when, you know, I was younger and keeping those friends through school. Luckily I was never transferred into like a different school. We kind of like had our neighborhood in our town and you kind of followed the course, elementary, middle, high school. And so I just feel that that's something that kids need. If you guys didn't know, again, to Jarius' point, education has been paramount since we've had kids. We used to make videos about all the things that they knew at certain ages. And here are actual pictures of them in graduating pre-K from their homeschool program that we had here. So they're used to a school setting, but it's always just ever been them. And it wasn't until Ashton came up to me actually surrounding his birthday and said that he wanted to have a party and he wanted to invite his friends. And I think that hit home and was just like an emotional thing for me because they really haven't had the opportunity to like make friends. We have, you know, Nancy and Kirk and like, you know, they're like our family here and, you know, their kids are, you know, like our nieces and nephews and our kids' cousins, but that's all that they know here. So like that's birthdays, trips, holidays, who they're always around. But the age differences, they're not in the same age group as Ashton and Ari. And so for me, it was just like, okay, like he wants to make friends. Like school is the only place that I know how to do so. Now, I know after doing research now it's different programs and things that we can put them in, but I think that it's nothing like school, at least how it was for us. And so I struggle with just feeling like how different it is now and like how important it was and excited I was for school back then, especially younger. Like high school, I wasn't as excited to go, but elementary school and Head Start programs was like, I don't know, fundamental for me.
So, and then I'll give you guys a little bit of context on my perspective. So I feel that kids, this isn't going to be a forever thing. I'm not saying that we are going to forever homeschool them. The goal is to get them to school. I want to get them to school safely. And it's so much up in the air about like, are teachers going to have the means to protect kids now? It's just so much.
To go to that, I don't just want to make this video the sole reason that we're not sending the kids to school is about like gun violence and things like that. So we also, if you watch any news, any social media, like COVID is still a thing. Monkeypox is now a thing. And
which is affecting children.
Which is now affecting children. And so I just think overall, to Jarius' point, I am really like I think I used to operate in a world or in a mentality where things like my heart goes out, but you always, like you never think things will happen to you. And
until
I just
they
think,
happen to you.
I can just imagine that those parents, you know, who sent their kids to school probably thought the same thing. After Sandy Hook, like you probably just like, your heart goes out, you feel terrible, it's a tragedy, but you never think that it'll be your kids. And, you know, I still am in the mode where I don't want to operate and live in fear. But I think just with everything back to back to back, it, you know, for me, it does make the most sense to be more reserved than taking that risk.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like for me, I can be unbiased and talk my true feelings through to you guys. I think a lot of it is fear. And I think I had to really think through, like, is it selfish of me? And part of me does kind of feel like it is a little bit selfish, but I think as parents, you have to make really tough choices. And you have to do what you feel is best. And again, this is not a permanent solution. It's not like we're making the decision that they're never going to go to school. I just think when you have a focus on, or a highlight, a spotlight on something going on specifically that's targeting young kids with no real plan of action on how to correct it, I don't want to be a part of that.
But see, it's
And
hard
I think-
because you keep saying that it's not for everything, but you can't even say that really.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be for everything, but I'm just saying that our decision right now is not forever. I think until last night, it's been day to day. Like,
I mean, we prepared for back to school.
We did.
You guys
School
see,
supplies, everything. Like, we've done days to where they can go and try it out. Like, we've done it all. But the thing is that when I think about it, like, I just can't let go right now with no real solution. And it sucks because, like Terrell said, I grew up with those memories. Some of my friends that I went to Head Start with are still my friends today, and one of them, I'm their son's godfather. So it's just like, I do understand the importance of, those times, but they're gonna get there though. And along the way, it's not like they're never going to meet people that they're gonna call friends. I don't want to look at it from an extreme perspective just because it's right now.
I don't think that this is an extreme percent, and it's not just about friends. I think that in truth, our kids need separation from each other and separation from us, and that's the biggest thing for me. Also, I don't, and you guys feel free to comment. I'm sure out of everyone, somebody was homeschooled. Somebody is a parent that may have homeschooled their kids, or have experiences with a relative or somebody that does it. So share your thoughts in the comments. But I just don't ever want it to be, well, these four walls is all I knew. And we do a really good job, I think, which is why we travel so much and do different experiences. And again, we're really being diligent and just trying to figure out like different activities that they can be a part of. And somebody told me that even if they're homeschooled, they can still be on like sports teams and stuff at your zone schools. So we'll look into that. But I just like with Jarius, I be needing a break from him. And so I be thinking that the kids need a break from each other, because the plan was to split them up in classes also, because they're very dependent on each other too.
Yeah.
And so now we're just trying to find ways to navigate those, which is probably going to be a little bit of extra work on our end. But luckily, we have the flexibility and schedule to be able to do so. But I'm interested for parents out there that are watching, like, if you guys don't, like if if your job is very demanding and, you're away from home, what are you guys' options? Or like, what have you thought through? Is it a difficult choice for you also? And
Even if you're not a parent, like, I think people can have an opinion about it. I think it's a topic that anyone can touch on. So I am interested in your perspective, but before you give me that, I want to address one thing, because I know this is something that people are going to say. Okay, so are you going to live your life in fear? Because that can happen going to the mall, that can happen going to the grocery store, all the movie theaters, like all those things that we've already seen to be true. And yes, it could happen, very much so. Here's the difference, and I want you guys to really let this marinate and sit and think about it. Would you rather your children go to school and be in a classroom where something could potentially happen with one teacher that is responsible of keeping 20 plus kids safe? Or would you prefer you being in a mall with your children or your child with your co-spouse or co-parent, and something happening and you have direct control over trying to keep them safe? I'd rather take my eyes with me and my husband keeping our children safe in those type of settings, or I'd rather our nanny have that type of those eyes if she's out with them or something like that, where it's just her and 2 children versus her with 30 kids trying to get all of them safe. I'd rather those odds than for them to be at school or something like that happens. So that's my perspective. So I just wanted to answer that, because I know a lot of people was just like, that can happen anywhere.
And it's interesting. I really want it to be known, because it's a very touchy subject, and especially with everything that goes into it that we're talking about. I reached out to my cousin who's a principal.
The elementary school.
multiple teachers, and you get mixed feedback, and the overall consensus was do what you feel is best for you. I do know, and I don't want this to be a negative thing for schools, anybody that works in the education system or teachers, because a lot of teachers have told us that they're being trained, they're learning different protocols. Some teachers went back to school early just to address certain things, like as it relates to safety. So by no means are we're saying don't send your kids to school, it's so dangerous. This whole video is just based off a decision that we made for our family. But we do appreciate all educators and education system for doing what you can and implementing things to prevent it. For us, I just think we want to give it a little bit more time. Just like y'all are with anything new that comes out, like I just want to feel comfortable and safe before we dive into it. So,
and I know it's not about the educators either, because I know it's a whole process behind the scenes.
I mean, it's risky for them too. I mean, it's not just kids who were affected by this. It was educators. So I think that even for educators to go back to school, that's something too. Like I thought through, like if you were a teacher as your husband, would I be like, yeah, you can go and do school next year? Like I probably would have. I know for sure he would have made me quit.
But what I was gonna say is that I know that there's a process behind the scenes of a chain of commands that has to approve certain things, and there's laws and complexities involved in that. So I don't want it to seem like we're placing the blame on teachers or anything like that, because I know that our kids would have a very good teacher because we know who she is. I know that we have a very good teacher and that she do everything possible to keep our kids safe, but we know that some things are out of y'all's hands too. So with all of that said, like, please drop a comment. Let us know, like, your thoughts. Like, you don't have to be a parent to be, to be able to comment and to be able to give your opinion. Like, we want to bring you guys in on this conversation because it's been something that has kept us up many nights, has brought up amongst really big discussions, really heavy discussions, some tears, and all of that stuff. So I can't wait to hear your perspective. And then the last thing that I want to say is my heart truly goes out to all of the people affected by all of the shootings, not just the one in Texas, but Sandy Hook, everyone, because I saw that there was a little girl that had been in Sandy Hook that had been triggered by the shooting in Texas. So my heart goes out to anyone affected by gun violence, period. And truly, truly sorry for anyone having to deal with such a heavy loss like that. So I just wanted to make sure we share that message too, that our heart goes out to you guys. And we hope that for anyone whose kids are going to school, that we hope that everyone has a blessed and prosperous and safe school year. And we love you guys so much. And until the next video.